I don't know why I am writing this tonight, but my heart insists on spilling what my lips have never been brave enough to confess, because the memory of that night lingers like a shadow I can neither embrace nor escape. And though I try to tell myself it was only an evening, only a series of choices made under the weight of loneliness and longing, I know deep down that it was more than that. It was a turning point, a secret carved into the walls of my chest, a story of desire and shame that begins with a single message lighting up my phone and ends with me questioning everything I thought I knew about myself. I remember the way my breath caught when I read his words. "Can we talk tonight? I need to see you." And how I stared at the screen for what felt like forever. My mind whispering 1,000 reasons to ignore it, to delete it, to put the phone down and walk away, but my heart, traitorous and restless, beat with an excitement I tried to disguise as dread, and so I told myself I wouldn't answer. I wouldn't go. I would stay wrapped in the safety of silence. Yet as the hours passed and the sky outside shifted from blue to indigo, I found myself slipping into my shoes, reaching for my coat, and standing before his door as though pulled by an invisible thread I could not cut. When he opened the door, it was as if he had been waiting, his hand on the knob, his eyes searching mine with an intensity that made me forget to breathe. And though no words passed between us at first, I felt them anyway, the unspoken things thickening the air like smoke. So I stepped inside, into a room lit only by a single lamp casting golden shadows, and sat on the edge of his couch, my body stiff, my mind screaming that this was dangerous, wrong, that I needed to leave. But then his voice broke through the silence, soft and trembling. "I shouldn't have asked you here," but I couldn't stop myself, and those words, honest and heavy, sank into me, pulling me closer to the edge I had been resisting for so long. I wanted to ask why, to demand an explanation, to give myself an excuse to walk away, but all I could manage was a whisper. "Why tonight?" And his answer came without hesitation. "Because I can't pretend anymore." And though he didn't move, though the space between us remained untouched, it was as if his confession bridged it anyway, because I could feel the pull, the undeniable truth of what had been simmering in silence for far too long, and I hated myself for recognizing it, for wanting it, for not being able to shut it out. He lifted his hand halfway, reaching but not daring to complete the gesture, his fingers suspended in hesitation, and said, "If you tell me to stop, I will." And that was the moment I should have said no, should have closed the door on everything unspoken. But I couldn't, I didn't. I just stared at his trembling hand and let the silence answer for me. And in that silence the weight of my weakness became unbearable, for every thought in my head screamed run, resist, fight this, while every beat of my heart whispered stay, surrender, just for tonight. The hours that followed blurred into a haze of confessions and stolen glances, of half-formed sentences that dissolved into quiet, of words like "I've thought of you every day," and "I wish it didn't feel so right," spilling from our mouths as though we were both drowning, and the only way to breathe was to admit the very things we had buried. And though nothing more happened, though we did not cross the line into acts that could never be undone, the closeness itself was enough to brand me with shame, because I had wanted it, I had leaned into it, I had chosen not to say no when every fiber of reason begged me to. And when the sky began to pale with the first light of dawn, reality returned with cruel clarity, painting the room in honesty I could no longer avoid, and I gathered my things with shaking hands while he stood by the window, his shoulders hunched as if carrying the same unbearable weight, and when he finally spoke, his voice cracked with guilt. "I'm sorry." And I echoed the same words. "So am I." Though we both knew apologies could not erase the truth of what had passed between us, I left his apartment with the rising sun at my back and the echo of his voice in my ears, walking through streets that felt foreign in their innocence, and when I reached home, I collapsed into bed but found no rest, because the night replayed endlessly behind my closed eyes, every detail sharper in memory than it had been in reality. The flicker of the lamp, the way his voice trembled, the quiet ache of my own silence. And even now, as I write these words, I ask myself again and again why I couldn't say no. Was it love disguised as desire, or desire disguised as love? Or was it simply loneliness finding its reflection in someone equally lost? And though I try to frame it as weakness, there's a part of me that refuses to let go of the tenderness buried in the shame, a part of me that secretly longs for another message, another night, another chance to give in even though I know the cost. I tell myself that I will be stronger if it happens again, that I will rebuild the walls I let crumble, that I will finally speak the word I should have spoken that night. But even as I write these vows, I know how fragile they are, because the truth is that sometimes the heart doesn't bend to reason. Sometimes it clings to what it shouldn't. Sometimes it wants what it cannot have. And no matter how hard I try, I cannot change the fact that when he reached for me and gave me the choice, I didn't push him away. I didn't stop the tide. I didn't say no. And that is the secret I will carry with me, the shame that will haunt me, the memory that will never release me. Because once you have tasted that dangerous closeness, once you have let yourself fall into the pull of forbidden desire, you can never go back to the person you were before. And so here I sit, pen in hand, heart in pieces, writing the truth that no one else will ever read. A truth I cannot speak aloud but cannot silence inside me either, that the night I couldn't say no was both the most beautiful and the most devastating night of my life, and I will never forget it, no matter how much I wish I could.